Hi, Scorpio Sun and Rising. Welcome to your November 2025 Astro Update. It's Raina here. You're the first sign that I'm doing because it's Scorpio season for most of the month. And when I was compiling the list of transits, I was like, I can't believe how many transits there are. And of course, there are minor transits every month as well. And those are so fast moving that I personally don't mention them, in my monthly forecast, but wow. These major transits, it's pretty big. There's a lot of them. So when that happens, I have to assume that November is going to be a very memorable month, active month. And when we think about the fact that it ushers in the holiday season, at least in the United States with Thanksgiving, but even after Halloween, maybe in other parts of the world, this is true as well, is that at least for the marketing, they start pushing the Christmas stuff. So anyway, as the month begins, the sun is in your sign. On the 4th, Mars goes into Sagittarius, which is your second house of earned income. When Mars enters the second house, it's like a fire gets lit under you and a sense of urgency develops, and you want to earn money, and you have the energy, the physical stamina to do it. If you are working overtime, if you're working a second job. Now, a Mars transit is probably about 6 weeks or so. So it's not like, or, something like that. It's not a situation where it's necessarily going to be this long, drawn out period of time where you're just like us, working long hours. It might be situational, short term. And, like I said, this is the holiday season or the very beginning of it or right before it. And you might be wanting to earn money for gifts and things like that. So maybe you take a little seasonal job, or you're just, you have like a more workload because of the time of year or what have you. The very next day on the 5th, we have a full moon at 13 degrees of Taurus, which is in your 7th house of committed partnership. I do want to point out, because there is going to be another transit that is all about relationships that I'm going to speak on very shortly, that's also in Taurus, that there could be some Scorpio people who are ready to let go of a relationship. The full moon can bring something to completion, and a couple of days later, Uranus, that very erratic and freedom-loving planet, goes back into your 7th house of committed partnership, where it spent the better part of 7 years there. So for sure, these two events could be connected. The full moon may bring out some secret or some other revelation about your partner to you, and that can help you if you have been in the dark about something. And at every full moon, the sun is opposing it from the opposite sign in the opposite house. So here we're talking about your sign of Scorpio in the 1st house of the self. So this can be about honoring the self when the sun is in your 1st house, and really valuing yourself in light of a relationship. And maybe this has been an on-again, off-again relationship. Maybe freedom has been part of the theme of this relationship, the lack thereof in some cases. Now, of course, Scorpio is a sign that tends to be very uh, deeply connected to a partner and not wanting to kind of have that more detached attitude with relationships. But when Uranus is there, you do have that uncharacteristic desire for more freedom and also for maybe a less conventional relationship. The example that I would give right off the bat is, let's say you have been married before and you don't want to get married again. You've been there, done that. You don't see that marriage sprinkles fairy dust on relationships and makes them somehow immune to breaking up, problems, everything else. And so you might say to yourself, okay, I don't see the point in this anymore. And that's simply challenging the norm. And that's kind of what Uranus is all about. So these kinds of issues can crop up at the time of Uranus back into that house. There's something that needs to be resolved. And the full moon is kind of that punctuation mark. But Uranus will continue to be here until early 2026. So it's not immediately leaving this sector anytime soon. On the 6th, Venus goes into your sign, so that can be very nice. You may be magnetic, there's something charming about you. There's something alluring. You may even go out and buy yourself a new outfit or get a haircut or a makeover of some sort. But that just can be good for general nice vibes coming your way. On the 9th, Mercury goes retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius in that second house of earned income. So this is an area, every year, this is going to see these inner planets doing their thing. It can vary from the exact time, obviously, but the fact that we have a Mercury retrograde here at this time and that Mars is already in that second house means that you may be rethinking some way that you're earning money. And so if you're applying energy to it, that may be something that you're a little bit not so sure about at the moment. One thing I want to point out is that last December, 11 months earlier, Mars went retrograde in Leo. So it has taken all this time for Mars to even get to Sagittarius. So it has been a minute since Mars has been in your second house. And that is very significant, but because of this Mercury retrograde, it might be showing that there's something that you are still on the fence about, that you need to make a decision about. This might be coming up for you. And this may temporarily affect finances. And, because if you're meant to get a payment, and especially if it is in the mail, please watch for that, because, or even direct deposit, because there could be a snafu. But remember that Mercury is very fast moving, and that means that everything will get resolved fairly quickly. And also that Mercury is going direct this month. I like that. I wasn't sure about that, but I'm glad that it is, because it means that we can use those first weeks in December kind of to get out of the shadow period. So on the 11th, 11/11, Jupiter goes retrograde at 25 degrees of Gemini. So this is your 8th house, and that's the house that you rule in astrology. Oh, I'm sorry, I put Gemini. It's actually Cancer. So that's actually your 9th house, and that is the house that Jupiter rules in astrology, which is very interesting. So this trines you. By the way, when Jupiter goes retrograde, because it is a benefic planet, it's such a large planet, so it's got so much positive energy behind it. Even when it's retrograde, it can still bless you. But those blessings might be things that somehow you were not able to take advantage of when you first crossed paths with them. Because remember, a retrograde means that the planet is transiting backwards, losing degrees. I mean, they say, oh, well, that's just not, it's not really going backwards, but it is in terms of losing degrees, sometimes going into the prior sign. But in this case, it is going to stay in Cancer, and it starts its retrograde at 25 degrees of Cancer. Now, in the 9th house, the house that Jupiter rules, this can involve any sort of expansion in the area of long-distance travel. Maybe you're someone who has been blessed with the ability to do some globe trekking, and you get called back home for some reason, or you have to cut your trips short, or maybe change your itinerary in some way. Something is not progressing at the moment. It doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way. This is just a temporary blip, and there could be hidden blessings here. That could be what Jupiter represents for you in this 9th house. Same applies for anything in academia, publishing, and just higher learning. If not at university, then it can be with some kind of spiritual studies. This may be something where you choose to go within. That's actually a great use of Jupiter in the 9th house, rather than more externalized study. Is like going within spiritually, your inner path. On the 18th, Mercury goes retrograde, and I mean, Mercury is already retrograde, but it's going back into the former sign of Scorpio, back into your sign. So from the 2nd house in Sag into the 1st house of the self. And this can really be a time with Jupiter retrograding in your 9th house, and that can be your life philosophy and your ethics. For Mercury to go from the 2nd to the 1st house can really be asking you, what it is that you are doing, like how you see yourself, and, in terms of how you make money. And some people may kind of laugh at that, scoff at that people even would care. As long as it's legal, why shouldn't I make money from it? Well, if somebody goes vegetarian and they're a butcher, they might think twice about it, because all of a sudden their values have changed. So there may be something along those lines that is happening for you like that. Mercury in the first can certainly make you rethink your life as a whole. On the 20th is your new moon, a couple days after this. It's at 28 degrees of Scorpio, a late degree of Scorpio. I see these new moons, and there have been a series of them, as almost akin to full moons, because it is bringing something to culmination. And at the same time, you might be manifesting that thing. This could be in some area of your life, but especially as it pertains to you personally, where you are a big part of it. So if it's a new creative project that you have birthed, or if you have like started your own business, even if it's like a very low-key thing, this could be like the full moon, or I'm sorry, that new moon that kind of showcases what you have put into it. On the 21st, the sun goes into Sag, into that second house of earned income, so you're really focused on your finances. On the 27th, Saturn goes direct at 25 degrees of Pisces. Very interesting, because we did have a lunar eclipse. This was, I believe, in 2024 at 25 degrees of Pisces. There have been a couple of important transits where planets have stationed direct at that degree. There's something about that. And for you, this is your fifth house, which is the fifth house, the house of love and creativity, and also the business that you own. Saturn retrograde here may have made you have to solidify something more, and now you're ready to go forward. So I think that's pretty significant. If this is related to a relationship, the fifth house isn't like really a relationship, it's more like dating, but getting serious about dating. And maybe you kind of let that go because you didn't think maybe you didn't have faith that you were going to meet somebody that mattered to you, or you had some negative experiences, but now you're ready to move forward and take it seriously. When Saturn is in the fifth house, this can also apply to creative projects, that you're taking them seriously, that you are creating foundations to make it viable. Fifth house can be a hobby, but if you want something that you do as a hobby to turn into a business, you couldn't ask for a better transit than Saturn through the fifth house. On the 29th, Mercury goes direct at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So that gives you more information to move forward. So these planets moving forward in your sign, in the first house, in the fifth house, and that trining you, that can be a sign from the universe that you're ready to proceed with certain things going on. On the 30th, Venus goes into Sagittarius. That's your second house of earned income. What a great way to end the month, because Venus is the ruler of the second house. So it can really specialize in attracting money to you for the next few weeks. Isn't that nice? All right, Scorpio, that's what I have for you. I hope that resonated with you. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings, well, my package deals in general, but Probably the most popular overall is my deep dive reading, which is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for the next 12 months. This can be especially meaningful when you're having your solar return, or if you know what your ascendant is, when the sun crosses over your first house cusp, that season, whatever sign that is. But I'm, speaking, since we are in Scorpio season, I guess I'm speaking to Scorpio suns in particular right now, unless you have Scorpio sun and rising, I suppose. And this can be a great time. By the way, if you have the sun in Scorpio, your ascendant could very well be a totally different sign. And therefore, here, all these transits are going to be in different houses. And the timing is going to be completely different. And the natal chart, which is based on your time of birth, that is used for predictive purposes quite a bit. So that can be quite a revelation. But in any case, by buying these readings as a package deal, you save money, and they do go together. And then I have one with the tarot. All three of those together is called the whole enchilada, and I have other variations. I do career readings, love readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Happy birthday and have a great month. Bye.